Today, we are talking about water damage, but not just the cleanup. We're going to dive deep into the actual science of restoration, what really happens when water gets into your home, and, more importantly, the precise science-based playbook for making things right again. So let me ask you a question. What do you think is the single most destructive force in your home? You might think fire, maybe wind, but nope. It's water. It's quiet, it's sneaky, and it is absolutely relentless. And the moment it shows up, a clock starts ticking. And the sources? Well, they're the usual suspects, often hiding right under our noses. We're talking about everything from a pipe that suddenly bursts to your washing machine giving up the ghost. It could be a sump pump failing in a heavy rain, a leaky roof you didn't know about, or the one everyone dreads, a sewage backup. Any one of these can kick off a massive chain reaction. So, here's our game plan for today. First, we'll look at why water is such a tricky, unseen enemy. Then, we'll zoom in on one town to see how local risks play a huge role. From there, we'll get into the actual science of the damage, break down what the pros do, and finally, talk about why doing it the right way is so incredibly important. All right, first up, water as the unseen enemy. The whole point here is to think beyond just a simple puddle on the floor. You've got to understand its invasive power. This isn't just a spill you can mop up. It's an active threat to your house's bones and even your health. And the sources we looked at are absolutely clear on this. Time is your #1 enemy. Seriously, every single minute that ticks by, that water is on the move. It's soaking through floorboards, it's wicking its way up drywall, and it's saturating everything you own. The damage isn't just sitting there, it's actively and relentlessly getting worse by the second. Now, to really get a handle on this problem, let's make it real. We're going to look at a case study from our source on a town called Jeffersontown, Kentucky. It's a perfect example of how all these local factors can cook up a perfect storm for water damage. So what makes this place so vulnerable? Well, it's a combination of things. First, you've got its geography. It sits in a watershed. Then there's the soil itself, which is a heavy clay that just doesn't let water drain away. Add to that a humid subtropical climate, which, mold absolutely loves, and then top it all off with some seriously heavy thunderstorms. It's basically a recipe for flooded basements. So what does this actually mean if you live there? Well, it's not a one-size-fits-all problem. You've got older homes, say from the 1960s, that are dealing with old cast iron pipes and drainage systems that are just, well, they're old. But then you have these brand new subdivisions with their own unique headaches, super complex plumbing, and, get this, second-floor laundry rooms that create totally new ways for things to go wrong. Different eras, different weak spots. Okay, so we've seen how where you live and what you live in creates the risk. Let's turn the page, because now we need to talk about the water itself. It's time to get into the science of what it actually leaves behind. And this is absolutely crucial. Not all water is created equal. Professionals actually classify it into 3 very distinct categories. You've got Category 1, which is clean water. Think a burst supply line. Contamination is low. Then there's Category 2, or gray water. This comes from a dishwasher or a toilet, and it's significantly contaminated. And then you've got Category 3, black water. This is the bad stuff. Sewage, floodwater, and it's grossly contaminated. Which category you have dictates the entire response, from just drying things out to a full-blown containment and disinfection mission. And that risk of contamination, it's at a frighteningly fast clock. Look at this. In the first 24 hours, the water is just soaking in. But right after that, between 24 and 48 hours, that's when mold and mildew start to grow. And once you're past the 48-hour mark, you're looking at a much higher risk of serious structural damage and major health hazards. That clock is not your friend. Okay, so we've established the problem, we feel the urgency, so what's the solution? Well, let's open up the professional restoration playbook. This is the methodical, science-based answer to all that chaos. The whole thing really breaks down into 3 main phases. Phase 1 is the emergency response, getting all that standing water out, like right now. Phase 2 is all about structural drying. This takes a few days, using heavy-duty equipment and constantly checking moisture levels. And finally, Phase 3 is verification. That's where they confirm everything is scientifically dry before any repair work even starts. So you might be thinking, can't I just do this myself? And this is why the answer is a hard no. Professionals show up with a serious arsenal. We're talking truck-mounted extractors, not a little shop vac. They use thermal cameras to literally see water hiding inside your walls. They have calibrated meters to get precise data. And those HEPA air scrubbers, They're pulling nasty stuff like mold spores right out of the air, making it safe to breathe again. It's a whole other level of tech. Which brings us to our last, and honestly, our most critical section: why the right way matters. This is all about professional standards and why they're not optional. So who even makes these rules? Well, it's an organization called the IICRC, the Institute of Inspection, Cleaning, and Restoration Certification. Think of them as the ones who literally write the book on how to do this job correctly based on science. If a company is IICRC-certified, it means they're following that official playbook. And that playbook isn't based on feelings or guesswork. This is the whole point. It's not about making things look dry or feel dry to the touch. It's about using precision tools to hit very specific scientific targets for how much moisture is left in the materials. So for example, what does dry actually mean when we're talking about the drywall in your walls? Well, according to the official standards, it means getting that material to a moisture content between 12 and 15%. If it's any higher than that, you're risking hidden mold. It's a measurable, non-negotiable number that separates a real recovery from a future disaster. So why should you care about all this? Because following these standards is what keeps mold from growing inside your walls later on. It's what prevents long-term structural rot. It's the proof your insurance company needs to pay the claim. At the end of the day, it's what ensures your home is actually a safe place to live. And isn't that the whole point? You know, if there's one single sentence to take away from our entire discussion today, it's this one right here, pulled from the source. Water damage gets worse every hour you wait. The science, the process, the standards, none of it matters if you don't act fast. So I'll just leave you with this last question to chew on. Your home has this incredibly complex system for bringing water in, but does it have a plan for what to do when you need to get that water out in a hurry? It's definitely something to think about long before you ever need it.